I chain smoke and I say fuck a lot. But I accept myself for the way I am. I accept you too. Viewer discretion advised.
Thank you to Uncle Horse for throwing me this one. This page has been deleted, but thanks to the Wayback Machine, we can find it. From the New Times, Broward, Palm Beach. Daddy's Girl. Fisher Island millionaire Bruce McMahon loved his daughter so much, he married her. September 28, 2006. Kelly Kramer. A secret sexual relationship with his daughter was not enough. There had to be a wedding. It had to be a grand celebration, befitting a Fisher Island multimillionaire who controls billions from Wall Street to Bermuda, from London to Dubai. So on a sunny June day 2 years ago, father and daughter exchanged rings at Westminster Abbey. They couldn't follow convention by inviting friends or family, and they couldn't make an announcement that they'd eloped. There was no white dress and no officiant. D. Bruce McMahon, then 65, and his daughter Linda Marie Hodge McMahon Schutt, then 35, pronounced themselves husband and wife on June 23, 2004. McMahon had 6 children by 3 women and was married to his 4th wife when, in 1990, he learned for the first time that he was the father of a grown child he didn't know existed. His daughter, Linda Marie Hodge, was adopted and grew up in Southern California with her adopted parents. When she was 18, she hired a service to help find her parents. 3 years later, she found her biological mother living about 30 miles away. She met her mother, Myra Westfall, who told her in 1968 she had a fling with McMahon while both were living in Southern California. When McMahon married his second wife, Melinda Yule, on January 3, 1969, Westfall was already pregnant. She gave birth to Linda 5 months later, on May 29, 1969. In 1990, she helped her locate her father. At the time, she was a 21-year-old sophomore psychology major at San Diego State University. She met her father. They did a paternity test of 99.7% certainty. Bruce McMahon began the seduction of his daughter one evening in the spring of 1998 by having her look over his business writings in the library of his lavish Pelham, New York estate. According to Linda's testimony, that night in 1998, McMahon's 4th wife, Cynthia, was at a spa, and a housekeeper was somewhere on the premises. Quote, he opened a bottle of wine. He poured me a glass of wine, and we drank together. While I leafed over his writings, he began to tell her of his sexual relationships with past women. He preferred them slender, with wide cheekbones. Quote, he told me he liked to buy furs for women and have sex with women on mink coats. McMahon, who was then around his 59th birthday, asked his daughter, 29, to move into his bedroom and watch the first 30 minutes of the movie Braveheart. He wanted to see the love story and clandestine wedding that unfolds in the opening act of Mel Gibson's film, because Linda testified it reminded him of his relationship with her. Then McMahon really started to lay it on thick. Linda testified he told her he believed they had been married in a previous life. Earlier in the evening, he had pointed out that her legs were a, quote, very sexy version of his own. Sorry. He asked me what it would be like to kiss me. Later that night, he found out. On his bed, he kissed her and ran his hand all over her body, on top of and inside her clothes. The petting session lasted 2 hours, she recalled. When Linda said she was tired, McMahon suggested they sleep in separate bedrooms. After Linda returned to California, her father asked if she was okay. She said she felt confused. Their first episode of actual sexual intercourse wouldn't take place for several months. For that encounter, McMahon arranged a fairly dramatic setting, a hotel suite in London after a transatlantic flight. The summer of 1998, she accepted her father's invitation to fly to London on a business trip. When they got there, they were still jet-lagged from their trip, so McMahon suggested they take a nap. When she woke up, quote, he was touching my leg and becoming physical with me. Later in the week, the two had sexual intercourse for the first time. After the trip, according to emails submitted in court documents, they mailed each other vibrators. Referring to the one he sent his daughter, McMahon emailed her on September 10, 1998, quote, "I unpacked the toys and checked them out. The thing excites me just looking at it. I promise you have never seen anything like it. Interestingly, it is actually smaller than I am. But what moves? I should have been so lucky. They are now packed into their own bag, and I'm going to make sure we have enough AA batteries to last for the duration." Oh, that's gross. That winter, Linda and her fiance, Shoot, became engaged. But the sexual relationship with her father didn't stop. She continued to sleep with her father through the end of the summer of 1999, and up until her October wedding to Shoot. That's when she stopped it, saying she was in love with her fiance and was deeply disturbed with the relationship with her father. McMahon moved on, starting a new romance with a Ukrainian woman who eventually became his fifth wife. And he did provide his daughter employment. He named Linda president and CEO of McMahon Center for Human Abilities, a nonprofit foundation McMahon had created to extend the efforts of his primary charity, the National Christina Foundation, which provides computers to disabled children and is named after another one of his daughters who has cerebral palsy. Linda was being paid $10,000 a month to run the foundation in the spring of 2002 when family members gathered to have dinner in a Sonoma restaurant. Her father fired her when she admitted that she wanted to have children with her husband. She left and returned to her career in psychology and accepted a postdoctoral fellowship at the University of Mississippi. She and Shoot moved to Jackson, and she didn't speak to her father for months. And then her adopted father, Laird Hodge, a retired government contractor, died in San Diego. After Linda's adopted father died, she got pretty sick. Quote, "I became very ill. I was experiencing heart problems, and the doctors at the University of Mississippi Medical Center indicated to me that I would need surgery on my heart." McMahon sent one of his 2 private planes to ferry her from her home in Mississippi to the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. The treatments helped and she began to recover. Her father insisted that she come to Fisher Island to recuperate so she could have access to a spa and to the Argent Center, posh retreat McMahon had built to entertain his family and his billionaire clients. I wonder what they did there. So she left her career in psychology and went back to work for him, and made him promise that it was going to be strictly a normal father and daughter relationship. She accepted a position as executive vice president of marketing for 2 of her father's financial firms, Argent Funds Group LLC and McMahon Securities. But things didn't stay normal for long. It changed from a loving, supportive father caring for an ill, vulnerable daughter to a manipulative, contingency-based reward/punishment relationship that created my dependence on him and gave him control and dominance over me, Linda testified. According to Linda's court complaint, McMahon again initiated an incestuous sexual relationship in April 2004 that lasted for more than a year. In June, the couple flew to London with a twisted plan to get married where the kings and queens of England are crowned. That makes sense. We traveled to London for some business, and during the trip, Bruce took me to Westminster Abbey, and we exchanged vows. It was their secret. Except for a few traditional photographs, it was a wholly unconventional and unholy union. Afterward, she flew home to her legal spouse in Mississippi, and he went home to his compound on Fisher Island, a ferry ride from Miami. From different states, they traded their wedding photos back and forth over email. He talked about touching up her red eye. She declared her favorite, the photo of their hands wearing their new rings, his hand on hers, which they had titled, "Says It All." In emails, they began to sign off as quote H and quote W, references to husband and wife. In one email dated June 29, 2004, McMahon wrote, quote, "Miss you, W. Think nasty things about you all the time." Linda answered a couple hours later, quote, "Yeah, nasty is so good. You must have read my mind." What else can we say? We're H&W. That's the beauty. Despite its dramatic location, however, McMahon and Linda's wedding in London wasn't legal. Each was married to another person at the time. McMahon began spending more time at the plush Fisher Island retreat he built for his hedge fund clients. Fisher Island, an exclusive enclave reached from Miami only by helicopter, boat, or private ferry, is a man-made island once owned in part by Richard Nixon. Has a population of about 500 and is in a zip code that the 2000 census found had the highest per capita income in the country. In July 2005, Linda refused to continue sleeping with McMahon. In her August sworn statement, Linda says McMahon responded to the breakup by saying on the phone, "I'm going to preemptively destroy you." What followed was a breakup on an even grander scale than their wedding and legal battle. For more than a year, attorneys were busy in Miami, New York, Mississippi, and San Diego with the fallout over the breakup of McMahon and Linda in 5 lawsuits. But all 5 lawsuits were settled on undisclosed terms. As a part of the settlement, a federal judge in San Diego sealed the files of the California lawsuit and took the rare step of wiping out any record that the lawsuit had ever existed. In court papers, McMahon denies that he ever had a sexual affair with his daughter, but he doesn't explain how his and Linda's DNA turned up on a vibrator that Linda's husband uncovered in her luggage. McMahon also hints that Linda may not be his biological daughter, despite a DNA test he paid for, showing with a 99.7% probability that he is her father. McMahon has a long history of litigating his breakups, both personal and financial. Yule describes him as an egomaniac who lives his life in a series of ongoing sagas. The drama he creates feeds his ego and shapes the story of his life. Quote, "When you live with someone like that, it's not fun when you challenge them," she said. McMahon's business relationships have also ended in grinding court battles, some making it to federal appeals court, creating case law. Bruce passed away at the age of 77 on March 29, 2018. Guess who he was friends with? From Gawker, 9/27/2006. Jeffrey Epstein's friends and neighbors. One of McMahon's many ex-wives, Melinda Yule, who herself had an ugly divorce from McMahon sometime before he tried to seduce her daughter. When Yule made allegations in her divorce that McMahon had treated her cruelly, McMahon countersued and accused Yule in engaging in affairs and, quote, attempting to seduce mutual friends and associates, according to an appellate opinion in the case. Yule tells New Times that one of those men was billionaire Jeffrey Epstein. At the time, in the early 1980s, McMahon and Epstein worked together at Bear Stearns in New York. Quote, Jeffrey Epstein worked with McMahon. He was, let's just say, in the divorce proceedings, she says. I was asked to stop by Jeffrey's apartment to pick up some papers for Bruce. It didn't feel right, so I didn't even go in. I stood outside the door. And then, later, Jeff said I propositioned him. There were always allegations I was having to fight. Birds of a feather. We know what that means. Fucking stoned. I got motherfucking spaceship. Oh, fuck. Oh.